Drawngeon, Mount and Blade Warband, X Beyond the Frontier. These are 3 games you've probably never heard of, but they're surprisingly good. The first game I want to talk about is Drawngeon. It's a first-person roguelite where you have to rescue a village from the mysterious tower that spontaneously appeared and ruined the whole place. It has a slightly weird control layout where instead of moving your view around using the mouse, you just press the Q and E keys to rotate in 90-degree increments. It's kind of weird to get used to, but it actually kind of makes a lot more sense considering the game's grid layout. The layout is basically you interact with the thing in front of you. You can't really mess with things that are to the left and right. You can only interact with things that are directly in front of you, and that includes dropping items and all interactions whatsoever. It's got 3 classes: Warrior, Magician, and Trickster. They're all pretty fun, but by far the easiest, in my opinion, is the Warrior. They all have some unique items and strategies that are associated with them, which is pretty nice. One thing I can really appreciate is the style. I love the hand-drawn kind of retro feel to it, and you can even go into the in-game gallery or look into the game files to find some pretty interesting original artwork with all the items, bad guys, and some other stuff. All in all, I'd certainly recommend this game to anybody interested in something fresh and new to play for a couple of hours. It only costs like $5, and it goes on sale pretty often as far as I can tell. Also, the ending is just an absolute masterpiece. Don't let anybody tell you different. I will give just one small disclaimer. The game it's really short. My winning run where I beat the game only took me an hour and a half. And I had only owned the game for 2 days. So don't expect to get a ton of playtime out of this. It's not Skyrim. But it's still an amazing experience for the few hours that you will spend. The second game on the list for today is Mount and Blade Warband. It's probably the best known game on our list, and although it's really old, chances are you may have actually seen this one, as it has somehow under the radar sold upwards of 6 million copies. The real reason you've probably never heard of it is because it's been left behind. Newer games, even including sequels to this one, have come along and taken over the industry, and even though they're very functional, the graphics and gameplay were left behind, simply being not that cool anymore. Let's cast aside that look at the exterior, though, and take a deeper journey into this diamond in the rough. It's a much deeper game than Drawngeon is, and it really just has a lot more content within. The basic gameplay loop is mainly just going around and talking to nobles. We'll give you side quests so you can go around fighting little skirmishes. Then you can report back to the noble who inevitably lives on the other side of the continent and collect your hard-earned rewards, hopefully not losing all of your troops due to being raided by bandits and deserters. It has a pretty big world, and you're constantly being given side quests and missions to fulfill, and it always seems like you're being asked to add another mission to your ever-growing backlog. The combat is actually really enjoyable, and the in-the-moment gameplay is actually much better than a lot of modern games. Honestly, although this thing's metaphorically been covered up by a layer of dust, it kind of feels like wandering up into your grandpa's attic and finding a Fleetwood Mac album or something on vinyl. Yeah, that's high praise comparing that game to such a well-known band, but I honestly feel like it's a pretty good comparison. It's not the best game ever made by most people's standards, although it does have some parts that are really good. I've done nothing but praise the game so far, but it wouldn't be fair to avoid some of its flaws. First of all, and probably the biggest problem, is that the late game is just a grind. Once you're maybe 4 to 5 hours into a save slot, it seems like forward progress just halts, and you're stuck doing repetitive tasks over and over again, all the while reaching towards the lofty goal of becoming the ruler of the mighty land of Calradia? This unfortunate amount of grind is the main reason I've never actually beat the game's campaign, instead choosing to just have fun in the early sections. All in all, I would recommend this game, although 20 bucks does seem a bit steep. Maybe just wait for it to go on sale. I know a lot of people will have low-end hardware, but no worries, it will literally run on Windows XP. The last game on our list is actually also the oldest. It's X Beyond the Frontier. This is a space simulation game that takes place in a massive dynamic galaxy that has a functional economy and a bunch of different factions. It came out in 1999, so it's obviously really dated, and the controls are nothing short of arcane. The graphics and audio are pretty low fidelity, but they're functional enough that you can pretty much tell what's going on. And there's actually an extensive fan-made playthrough guide that's included in the game's files. The story takes a pretty long time to complete, and it's actually a pretty rewarding experience. You play as a lone human that was stranded on the far side of the universe following the testing of warp drives for small spacecraft. Working your way up through the foreign galaxies, you'll soon be playing the economy in order to upgrade your ship and fight aliens and pirates. That said, the game does have some pretty clear flaws. Because it's so old, it can be glitchy on modern hardware. They did recently release a stability update, but you'll still occasionally find little bugs and things. The controls are pretty terrible, and it's a lot of work to rebind them. And since the game is pretty obscure these days, it can be pretty hard to find guidance if you're stuck or if you need help. But with all those negatives, the game does still have a lot of strong points. At its current price of $4.99, there's not really a lot of reasons to not give it a try. While it is objectively a product of its time, on the inside there's a very deep experience just waiting to be discovered. On the gameplay side of things, you're probably going to spend a lot of time looking at menus, changing loadouts, and doing things involving the economy and shipping. A lot of players have been known to create spreadsheets and stuff. That might be a little dramatic, but it does give you a general idea of what you're going to be looking at when you sign up to play this game. If you've played a lot of more hardcore games like Elite Dangerous or EVE Online, this game might be a nice way to relax and play something a bit more calming. If it turns out that you love it, it's the greatest thing you've ever played, there's also a really expansive series of sequels that go all the way up to the latest entry, X4 Foundations, which is a 2018 release with ongoing updates and support. I personally really love this game. There's just enough gameplay that, even though it's really old, it just keeps me coming back every once in a while to just keep playing. I've never actually played through the main campaign because, like I said, it takes a really long time. There's a lot of missions, and it's not something that just kind of flows naturally. You're in the game's open universe, and you can have the option to complete story quests at some point. But for the most part, it's a really fun, pretty open-ended space exploration kind of game where you can do stuff like build factories, you can fight in battles, upgrade your ship at pirate bases, all kinds of cool stuff. And at the price, it's totally worth it. You should give it a shot. That's all for today. I hope you learned something new, and who knows, maybe you're even excited to try these games out. Thanks for watching.